And you end up getting let go from WCW, and you're off for a while, and you're trying to figure out what to do, and the phone call comes from Vince McMahon to become Goldust. And I kind of wonder, can you talk us through a little bit about going from like the complete opposite of the natural to being this androgynous sort of like complete departure from what you'd been before in a time where that maybe wasn't as accepted as it would have been today?
It was different. I'm sitting at home and I got let go. Eric Bischoff let me go. And I'm sitting at home about 7 months. And Vince calls me and said, Dustin, I have this gimmick idea to run by you. And Bruce Pritchard was on the other line too. So I was on a conference call. I said, sure, please, sir, please, let me hear it, And he started explaining the Goldust character, how he was a movie star and he wore these androgynous outfits, and he kept saying androgynous, and I had clue what androgynous meant. I didn't know what the hell he was talking about. I'm just agreeing, yes, sir, yeah. So at the end of the conversation, he's like, well, are you interested in maybe coming and giving this a shot? I said, yes, sir, no problem whatsoever. As soon as we hung up the phone, I went to the dictionary, and I looked and saw what androgynous was. I went, what the Oh, I'm from Austin, Texas. I was raised with Dad on the farm, man, with cows and horses and like that. And here I am, and I'm like, well, but at that time, me and Dad had a falling out, so we weren't talking during this time. And like for 5 years, we weren't speaking. So I thought to myself, I've wanted to try to, I realized I could never fill my dad's shoes because those are just his shoes only. There's no way to fill those shoes. So I did a great job at Dustin Rhodes. Let me go try to fill my own shoes and give this a shot. So I went, and the rest is history.
And when you start, because Scott Hall famously tells a story about how he didn't feel comfortable.
No, he did not. He did not feel comfortable with working with me. He didn't want his kids to see this gold freak rubbing up on his daddy's body, and I understand, but it's a work. It's entertainment, it's television. This is what we do. And for the longest time, man, it was for about 6 months, I had to try to figure out how to be a heel and this character, which is completely opposite of the way I was raised and everything. So it was a very big learning experience. And once I found it, it was due to Savio Vega. And we were in Madison Square Garden. And he kept trying so hard. And Vince would never say gay, okay? He always said androgynous. And still, I'm like, why don't he just say gay, But he was giving me full reign, man. I mean, he was pushing the shit out of me back then. And he said, Dustin, you're going to have a lot of people that are not going to be in agreement with what we're doing here, and they're going to say a lot of things, but you come to me if you have any problems. And I always did. But Savio talked me into it one night, and it took him about 2 months to do it. But I finally gave in because New York City is predominantly a Puerto Rican crowd, and Savio's Puerto Rican. So he's like, Dustin, just do this one thing for me, and if it doesn't work, we'll stop, because he's, for some reason, I guess he knew, But he said, just go behind me and rub up my chest and down my legs, and kind of brush over my So I'm like, just this once, let's do it. Okay, just this once. And I'm so uncomfortable with doing it. And then the time came in the match, and we were having a hell of a match. It was for the IC title, and doing it. I had the championship, and time came. He said, okay, let's go. So I shucked him to the side and rolled up behind him and started rubbing up down his chest, and I grazed his as I went down his legs. And he pushes away, and he looks at me, and he starts to chase me, and I just bail out of the ring. And this is the first time that I had been like a chicken heel. And it worked because the crowd just exploded on me, man. I was like, holy shit, that was easy. That was easy. And they're screaming every kind of profanity you can possibly imagine at me, And so I'm like, okay, that wasn't so bad. I think I may be able to can do this now. I think I found the answer to the Goldust character. And Vince was there that night. This was back when he was like a fan. Like he was one of the boys where you could sit around and talk to him, and he's watching the matches. Now he sits in his office at TV and barely comes out of his office, and it's hard to talk to him. But back then he was a fan, so he's watching the whole thing, and he was there that night. And I roll back in, and Savio's laughing at me, and I'm like, Jesus Christ. And now they're booing and making noise, which they haven't done for the first 6 months of the Goldust debut. And you know, they weren't making the noise that I needed them to make. So he pushes me back to the corner and said, we're going to do it again. Spin me around and then turn around and rub your ass on my dick. I'm like, what? He said it again. So he pushed me back to the turnbuckle. I spun him around, and then like I went to clean break him, and then turned around and I started rubbing my ass on his dick. And he pushed me off, and then he started chasing me. I bailed again, and they got louder and louder, man. I'm just like, holy shit, this is awesome. Well, Vince loved it so much, we got to the finish of this match, and the crowd's going ape. And I roll out, and I wasn't quite used to the Goldust suit yet. It was very, very hot, and it doesn't breathe very well. I got used to it over the years. But as soon as I go through the curtain, I'm unzipping the thing, trying to get out of it, and I'm laying down on the floor, and Vince had this grin, and he walks over to me, and he looks over at me. God damn, that was great. Listen, hey, go out there right now and get some heat on him. We'll bring it back a month later. So I'm like, yes, sir. So I get my stuff on, I go back out, and he's standing up with my title in the corner, and I go and give him a nut shot and start pounding away at him and shoot him in and hit him with a belt on the head, and came back, and we brought it out and sold out Madison Square Garden the month after. It was awesome. So I learned the Goldust character that night.